Hi everybody, welcome back to the painting channel. Today I wanted to do something a little different. I just wanted to play around with some skies and splash some colour on some paper and just have a little bit of fun with some watercolour. I also want to talk about paper during the course of this, so let's roll that intro. Let's see how it goes. Hi everybody, welcome back. As I said at the start, it is a watercolour and I do want to play around with some colour and make some skies. Now, it's not hugely important if at the end of this the painting doesn't work out, or indeed if I make it into a really nice little landscape and add another painting to my repertoire or to my catalogue of work. It really doesn't matter. I'm just having some fun. And that's what I wanted to talk about during the course of this. And I also wanted to touch upon papers as a general subject matter within watercolour painting. So without further ado, just let me say thank you ever so much to all my subscribers. As always, thank you so much for the support you give the channel. Also, if you're not subscribing, please subscribe to the channel. It really does help it out. It helps more people get to see it across the world, so that would be fantastic. And when you get to the end of the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. That's great too. Also, don't forget my Patreon. All the details to this for this Patreon is under each and every video that I create in the Show More tab. Nip on over, look at the tiers. If you like what you see, get involved. It costs you just $5 or $10 a month, but you get so many videos for it. You also get a dedicated Facebook community where you can interact with each other and with me and get lots of help from me in that way. And also every Friday night, in addition to all the videos that are already on there and added to all the time, there is a weekly live stream that you might want to watch as well. So there you go, have a look at that. And in the meantime, let's get on. Let's just have a little bit of fun tonight with some watercolor and some clouds, and let's see what happens. Okay, I'm just gonna start doing a little scribble. Really, I'm not doing anything in great detail. I just want to put in a little bit of a landscape, nothing serious. I was going to put a seascape in, but I actually could do that, you know. Let's just make this a nice seascape. There we go. Nice piece of the shore. So we've got a nice distant shoreline, and we're going to bring the curvature of the bay around. So there's the top of the bay coming down, and then the wall, the sea wall. This is local to me, so I know it very, very well. So there we are, and we can put one or two structures on there to show different parts. And this is where the water is, and we can put our sea through here. We can have maybe a sandbar there and just some more water through here. As I say, I am sort of creating this out of my head, but at the same time, you know, I see this, or the scene very similar to this, every day. I walk my dogs here and it's just so good and I love it. And loads of groins, we can put a few of those in, and let's put in the sort of these depth markers for safety of swimmers off the shore. They go all the way around the bay. There's another one there, and they go around like that, and they come this way too. Anyway, that's all the drawing I really want to do. So now let's look at the colour. Now what I wanted to talk to you also about was the paper that I'm using. Now I came to realise the other day that for most of my paintings that I do as tutorials for you to enjoy are all done on heavyweight 300-pound paper. Nothing wrong with that, but it occurred to me that my videos are not just aimed at the or semi-experienced watercolorists. They are also aimed at those just starting out. And heavyweight paper of that sort of structure, 300 pounds, hot press, rough, whatever, are the preserve of very expensive papers. They are, for an imperial sheet, about £13 a sheet. So it doesn't go that far. So when one is starting out, it's nice that they can avail themselves of cheaper paper, but still good quality paper. So I decided for a few paintings that I'm just going to come back to my grassroots and paint on some lesser papers in my opinion, but still very, very good papers. So let's just think about what we're going to paint for a kickoff. I want a bit of a moody sky. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put some, I say a moody sky, it may not be that moody. I'm going to put some blues in, but I'm going to come in with some mixture of some blues. I'm going to put some cobalt mainly with some phthalo blue, a little bit of ultramarine went in there as well. I'm just going to put these colours together, make quite a freshish blue, and then I'll put that to one side. Now I'm also going to put in some yellow ochre. My brush is full of another colour. Let's just change that out for that brush. There we go. We've got some nice yellow ochre ready to play with. And my last colour, I'm going to come in with a bit of sepia, like that. A little bit of a sepia tone. A little bit of red into that, just a little bit of Indian red just to mix that out. And I'm going to play around with it. I may add to it as a hair, just send a hair there somewhere. Anyway, not to worry. Let's come back in and let's play around with our blue skies. So I want to put some energy in the sky. I want some lovely blues. I don't think there is enough colour going on in here, so I'm going to drop that in. I'm working on £200 rough paper from Daler-Rowney. Now these come in pads and they're much more reasonably priced, and therefore if you're starting out, it's a great paper to get started with and have a play on and not get too precious over the work you're doing. And if it goes wrong, then you don't feel so bad about it. I'm just changing brush to put some nice ochres in there. Getting a little bit corrupted, but I expected some of that. So I'm going to put that nice light from this cloud through here, like that. And I'm going to play around with that now, and I want to put some darker values in. Now I said I'm having a bit of a lark around tonight. It's always serious painting for me, but at the same time it's a play around. I'm just having a little bit of fun with some colours, put a little bit of indigo into that and just bring that back to the blue there. Just having some fun with it, and I hope that the whole thing works. But if it doesn't, it really doesn't make a lot of odds, does it? Does it really matter? It's a piece of paper, and you can always turn it over and play around with the other side of it should you wish to do so, and that is never a problem. So nothing is wasted, but the learning experience is absolutely crucial. Just take that through there so that this will come down into this space as well. Just want to drop off a little bit of light as well right at the bottom there. So we've got the end of the day, nice little bit of blue sky running across here. It's getting really mixed up with that yellow. I'm not overly worried at all, but I'm just going to put a little bit more yellow into one or two of these and let that play around into there so that they merge. And then this will give way to some more of my blues through here. Just pick that before it dries off on me, and it was about to do that. Like that. Now, it doesn't look an awful lot right now, I will confess, but when it dries up it will look very, very different to the way it does now. That I could have done without that, I guess. Let's just bring that down, try and lose some of that. Just take out the dampness out of the brush. If you get a lot of going on, just lift some out and just pick up some of this colour before it spreads too far. There we go, a nice little cauliflower forming there. Let's get rid of that before it causes offence. These happen when you get more pigment going on than water to start with, and then you go back in and you add more water to the second go, and that's when things like this can start pushing away. So I'm just going to come in now with just a little bit more blue, take that across and work it through the whole system. And this is dangerous territory, gotta say, because at this point this whole painting can just go belly up and give up, but it doesn't really make a lot of odds. As I say, sometimes you just got to stop being so darn serious with what you're doing and just let your hair down and just paint. Paint, paint, paint. And if at the end of the evening of painting you say, well, that really didn't work out how I had planned, and this one is already getting to that stage. It's sort of messing up on me right here and now. It's possibly because I haven't used this paper for so long, and I'm thinking that it's going to work like a £300 paper, and it really hasn't got that sort of finesse about it. But it's still, as a beginner paper, it really is a great one. And so don't think that because I'm knocking it in that way, it's just my fact that I haven't been using this paper for such a long time. So I'm going to make amends for that, and I'm going to get back into it, and we're going to see how this paper will react for future paintings as well. Just want to get a bit of energy working into these clouds. Now, I did a painting recently that's should be out, and you can watch that, and if it has been put out, I'll put a link to it up in one corner so that you can see that one. And it's a landscape with some energy going on in the cloud, and that's what I was aiming for. Now this is going to sort of move around and merge with all the other colours, and I could wait for it all to dry before I do this, but as I said, I'm just seeing what happens. I'm just dropping colours in, dropping paint in, and seeing where it goes like that. I want a bit more weight into there. Anyway, I was talking about paper, and you know, we sort of, a lot of people, and myself included at different times, get so hung up about quality of papers and what we do. And I got so used to using sort of heavier weight papers that put a bit of blue in. I keep dropping back my conversation, but I keep sort of get so ensconced in using one type or a couple of types that I forget, you know, that it's okay for me because I can sell paintings a little bit more regularly maybe than some people that's just starting out, and so I can probably replenish my stocks of more expensive papers, but it's not so easy if you're just setting up. And you know, I forget that, and it is an easy fact to forget. So in that sense, I do apologise to all those that watch this and think, yeah, nice painting, but I can't afford those papers. So this is me painting on a paper that is affordable and within reach to so many people. So you can go to any art shop or any online store that sells art materials, and you can pick up pads of this for very, very small amounts of money, and you can therefore then start playing around with it and learning and adding to your repertoire of paintings, and the more you do, the better you'll get. And I said this recently in another video, which I'll post the link to, and where I just talk about practice makes perfect. I'm going to putting a little bit of burnt sienna into that mix there. It's quite nice because it's sort of, the cloud's forming, but it's picking up some of the light from the late afternoon. Now I have no idea if I'm going to be throwing this in the bin yet, but I have been saying all the way through that I really don't mind. I'm just going to bring that down a little bit into that cloud there, just so it's sort of a bit of dry brush. As this is starting to dry up now, is giving me a little bit of dry brush effect. Just a little bit, a little tap here and there, maybe a little yellow into some of that would be good. Now there's too much water went in there then. I saw that happen. What's going to happen, I'm going to get a hard, horrible edge now. So I'm going to try and minimize that if I can. And if I can't, you know what the answer to that will be. Take that all the way off. So this is me trying to cover up an error of judgment, and hopefully it will work. This area here too, should have waited for the colour underneath to properly dry. That's the truth of it, and I didn't. So I'm trying to tease out the pigment and the water and dry it out as I sort of start to spread it a little bit. It will give me a look, but it may not be the one that I seek. And drop in a little more strength of colour through there. and hopefully that may sort of stop the damage, stop the rot, stop the spread of the water pushing the blue pigment out and creating a hard edge. Not the best thing to do with your brush either, run it on the side like this. Bristles like to be used for their point, and here, and of course if you run it on its side you're going to splay those if you're not careful. Alright, I'm going to leave that as is, and I'm going to see and hope that that will do enough. Right, now I'm going to come in here with a much more paint, much less water, more paint, and see how that goes. I want to put some warms in here, dry brushing it through and into this area here. This is still moist, I think, enough to accept some of the change there without causing me an issue, but some nice dry brush effects across here. A little bit of blue, cool it off a little bit as it comes up. Secondary cloud coming across this one and joining into the main body. There's still enough damp there to work, and that's good. And I can just peel some of these off, little bits of cloud just breaking up from that main body, spreading across the bigger cloud behind. And I think that's fine. Not too happy with this, to be quite honest with you. It was an error, as I said, but there's not a lot I can really do about that. So let's just quickly come down now and let's put in the background. So going to come in with a distant violet colour, a little bit of ultramarine violet, a little bit of the Indian red, and maybe a touch of ultramarine blue. Let's just come across here with a suitable distance of hills and sort of, not hills, but sort of coastline really, heading towards New Romney and Dungeness. Few trees that you can see popping up on the horizon line, and you get a nice start because you've got the end of the day and the sun is starting to set over here. You get a sense of stark contrast between these sorts of visuals of distant land against that lovely pale blue sky. So it's always worth looking for things like that and giving you those nice big contrast changes. I'm going to bring that on. I'm going to put a couple of bigger trees up in here, maybe a little bit more blue into some of those, getting a little weak in pigment as they come through and across here. Top of the seawall, we're going to leave that, so we're going to bring over this way and add some yellows in the form of some Naples yellow, a little bit of cobalt to give me a dull dirty green, as these sort of trees and stuff change into more identifiable trees and structures along the top of the shoreline as it comes round closer to me, like that. Nothing too much, and I'm not really trying to sort of complete an absolute solid painting in that regard. I just want something that we can anchor the clouds to terra firma in a way and make it have some form of realism based upon adding that to this. So I have no idea what this looks like on camera, but hopefully it won't be too bad. I'm going to put in a lovely bit of blue, a little bit of yellow into that. I'll make a dirtier blue, and I'm going to spread that in there. This is going to be my sea, and it's got a lot of shade from the cloud above. Now it is quite dark, although it will dry lighter. I'm going to help that by adding a little bit of water and then squeezing out and allowing that to be lifted, that pigment to be lifted, so it will dry even more pale as it comes off. I'm going to take that up there. I'm going to leave some white spaces for the rollers that are coming in to shore and suggest that we've got a nice sort of sea and a few little bits of white breaker coming into the shoreline. And that's all that needs really. It doesn't need a lot more. You could drop in a little bit of more colour. You could just drop in maybe a little bit of greenish colour into the sea. I don't want to make a pea green sea, but of course we do know that at certain lights we can get that nice greenish effect. I'm going to just drop in a little bit more colour, a little bit more information through here, and see how that looks in a minute. So while we're waiting for that to dry, let's come in with some sand, and I'm going to use raw and burnt sienna in varying degrees, maybe a little yellow ochre as well, just to come into there and create something that looks a little bit like sand, tapping a little bit of that blue and green into it as well. So I'm just going to bring that all the way up there and just drop that in like so. Make it look as though it is going up and along. A little curve out there. There's little areas where the water is still coming in on it. I think we can get away with that. Take that down through here. Take it off the bottom of your page. If you leave white paper, great. If you don't, it doesn't really matter. Now I'm going to drop in a little bit of blue, but it's not going to. It's going to be a bit of gungy blue because we've got a lot of reflection up in here. So this is sort of water in between bars. So you get a lot of sort of areas where you get a bit of water flowing between bars of sand. As the water's going out, they get stranded and landlocked. And then let's just come through here finally with some sand, a little bit more yellow into it this time because it's not going to be as wet. It's had time to dry. And there is also an effect of the clouds on there as well. Bring that down through there. It's going to merge with it a little bit. I'm not worried. A little bit more of the yellow. Bring that down. Take that off the bottom corner of a paper like that. Don't worry about these overlaps where it looks like a bit of gungy stuff around with the blue and the yellow. But if you're worried about hard edges, then it would be a good idea just to maybe just tap off right on the edge there. We're going to put some darker elements around that because obviously where the water is on the sand, it does make it somewhat darker. So we've pretty much sorted out. All we've got to do now is a little colour of maybe concrete-ish colour. I'm going to put in a little bit of red, very pale, bit of blue, and I'm hoping that that's dry enough to take it. So this is going to be the top of my seawall, very simple colour line. And it is a basic colour. If I want to, I can go in there with something a little stronger and just drop that in along the bottom edge so it looks as though there is something more solid going through there. Take that all the way down just above the sand. Try not to touch it. See, I've touched it there, and that means to say that that sand is going to get contaminated with that other colour. Just take a damp brush and lift it back off. It shouldn't cause too many problems. At the end of the day, this is just, as I said, it's just a practice piece. It's just having a little bit of fun with a piece of paper and just seeing what happens with it. And I'm not looking to have a painting that I'm going to rush into a frame and so on. I'm just treating this as a night off from everything else, even though I am talking to you on camera. But I just wanted to have a night off and let my hair down. Not that I got too much of that either. but I just wanted to sort of chill and have fun with the paint and paper, and I thought, well, if I'm going to do that, I may as well film it. And if it's a good enough piece of information that you can get something from, I'll stick it out there. And if not, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you never see this, but hopefully you will. And so yeah, so that's really what tonight is about. It's about just having a little bit of fun. Just going back to the paper while we just finish this off very, very quickly. And that is the fact that paper, if you didn't or was not aware, comes in three types. It comes in a knot finish, a hot press finish, and a rough surface. Now, two of them, the knot and the rough surface, are cold pressed. And the hot press is, as it says, hot press. It undergoes much more treatment and much more bonding, and the surface is the smoothest of all three of them. But because of that, also certain brands, depending on the method or the overall finish, some tend to repel a little bit of water more than take it on or let it soak in. The rough and the knot papers they accept watercolor so much more easily. But I've also had the situation with hot press that it can be a little bit of a nightmare sometimes to get paper to paint to go where you want it to go. But it actually also allows you for a much more rough treatment of the paper surface before you get into trouble. So it's like all things, there are good things, there are bad things, and I would never turn around to anyone and say, well, don't use that and don't use that, but use this one. I would say to you that as money allows you and as your experience grows, I would simply turn around to you and say, learn by using all of them. It doesn't matter. And I've tried to demonstrate tonight that really and truly this is just me having a bit of fun. And if this ends up in the bin or flipped over as a practice piece on the other side on another day, that's great. Doesn't matter. I think the more you do, the better you'll become. And the more you do, the more confident you'll become. And I think that really truly is the whole thing. I'm just going to come back in and put a few final marks. Now this is starting to dry up. I think we got it a little bit. I'm just going to put the hairdryer on it just to help it out. Okay, so just very quickly to end this off now, I'm going to put in some little bit of sepia and a little bit of blue, a little bit of indigo blue to make a real nice gutsy dark. And I'm just going to come in here and I'm going to put in the pole that suggests the area, you know, for that marker. And then of course there are some that I said go further around the coastline like that. And then there are no end of groins that go through the sand and all the way up to the top of the seawall. There are loads of them, and they are every so often, and these ones tend to go out to the pole a little bit further. Others end a little bit sooner, and therefore they appear shorter on the beach. Some are longer, deeper, stouter, broken, all sorts of things, but these have been our local sea defences for as long as I can ever remember, and through history they've been sort of really important. That one's going to have a little bit of a reflection or something there, maybe a little bit of the post, and they got boards between them. That's what these little black marks are. Some are buried under the sand, others are protruding well above the sand, and some are just broken away. And you sometimes go along the beach and you find a little bit of broken groin and as such, and I tell you what, I've been tempted a couple of times to try and bring some back for the garden as just something quite ornate and quite interesting, but my heavens, they are so heavy you can't even pick one end up, much less carry it home. So I think that, but there we are, you get some idea, and we've got that done. The little bit of red, we'll put a little bit of Vermillion on the very top of this, like that. That is that nice little marker boy, and I think that's pretty much it, you know. Oh no, I actually said I was going to put in a bit of brown darks, a bit of sepia, a bit of burnt sienna, and I'm going to use a slightly bigger brush. Find one that will do the job that I want it to. There we are. Just a little thicker than a rigger, but not as thick as some of the ones I've been using. And all I want to do is just sort of come around here and suggest that there is a little bit of dark at the edge of the sandbars going down through there. And in painting like this, if you're really having some fun, you could also add figures, and there is a couple of videos that I'll add in if you want to take a look at those on painting figures in your image quite randomly. Then take a look at that and it'll give you some idea just to quickly paint a few in, and make it even more interesting as a painting. While I'm doing that, I'm going to put a few along here, just a little bit of a damp area around the edge of the water, so you can sort of get an idea that the sea is coming, and dampened off the sand in certain places. There we go. Maybe just break it up a little bit, just more interest on the sand. A little bit of yellow just to vary some of these marks, just as the last little bit. There you go. All in the fun of learning. Okay, so I've got a little seascape, a little bit of Dymchurch, a little bit of the bay, and let's just put in, you can't have a seascape without some seagulls, so let's put in a really dark mark because it's going to be nice and dark and silhouetted against this sky. So let's choose where we're going to put them, and always put an odd number in. So there's 1, 2, 3, make them not grouped together so neatly. There's 5, put a couple of ones over there. 6, one up high, maybe up there and up there. There you go, nice and interesting. I've got to count them now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We are odd. There you go. I don't know what it is. It's an old photographer's thing, but it is nice to have odd numbers as opposed to even numbers. So there you are, people. One very, very quick watercolor, and I do hope that you've enjoyed the process. As I said, the message that I wanted to convey by doing this for you tonight was one of let your hair down, chill and relax about the painting. We are all guilty, and I include myself in that, all guilty of sometimes getting just too darn serious and giving ourselves such a really hard time when it comes to painting a picture. And I say, hands up, I'm just as guilty of it. So I'm trying to tell you to chill and relax, as I have tried to do tonight. And I will also be taking some of my own medicine over the coming weeks. And I've taken it on board that yes, I will also paint in some materials, which is mainly paper, and some cheaper brushes which I've used tonight, and so that you can get the idea that you can have some fun with watercolor. You don't have to spend an absolute fortune on materials and kit to perform it and paint it, and you can do it as I've done in this short space of time and enjoy the process. So there you go. If you've liked this content, if you have enjoyed this content, please give it the thumbs up. But also in the comments section, tell me so if you've enjoyed it, what you've got from it, because I'm always interested to know. I'm always trying to add more video content that I find or feel is going to be useful to people to learn from, and not just aimed at experienced watercolors, but also to the beginner. And that's really where this has been set for. The beginner watercolor is somebody who's setting out and wants to enjoy what they're doing. So yeah, let me know what you feel about it. Let me know if you've enjoyed it, if you've got something from it, and if you'd like to see more of this sort of video in the future. So in the meantime, happy painting, take care. I can't post this reference up on my Patreon because it doesn't actually exist only in my head, although the scene is general from my location. But have a go at it and see how you get on, and I'll catch each and every one of you in a future video very, very soon. Take care. Bye bye.